Welcome back friends to the final module of this course. In this particular module, we will be discussing about different protocols which are used with Internet of Things. We have talked about, we have mentioned about RPL and other protocols, and we will be discussing about them, and we will also be looking at some of the supporting protocols that are used with IoT devices. Okay. For example, we looked at mesh networks and some protocols used with it. The many other protocols used, for example, RPL that I mentioned a few times. There is something called service discovery. Okay. So, for example, if I want to configure my IP address automatically, DNSSD can help. Okay. Service discovery can help me. Okay. And if I want to resolve, I want to find out an IP address of a node, and because I want to send a frame to it, I want to send a packet to it, I can use MDNS. Okay. So, MDNS is used, multicast DNS. And we are also going to talk about something called PANA, which is used for relaying extensible authentication payload to an access point, if I am using an access point for my IoT network. Okay. And this is RPL's full name. Okay. IP version 6, routing protocol for low power and lossy networks. Now, this is again, it is using IP version 6, is basically a routing protocol. It is surprising, IP version 6 itself is a routing protocol. So, this is an additional protocol run with IP version 6. Okay. So, in a way, RPL and IP version jobs are actually overlapping, and it is for what? Now, that is the reason why the next part becomes more important. It is for low power, okay, something which consume less power. So, it reduces multicasting and broadcasting, and we have seen that thing. Okay. And lossy networks. Lossy means a packet might get lost, and the possibility of losing a packet is much more in this than the conventional network. Okay. Because our houses, for example, are not devised for data communication. There are many other things going on. There are walls and other things, and there are other types of communication going on. So, it is more likely that my packet is lost. Not only that, remember, my IP version 6 packet is minimum 1280 bytes long. Now, that is converted into small fraglets to send, and out of those fraglets, hundreds of fraglets, if one of them is lost, my packet is lost. So, if I have a probability of 1 out of 100 fraglets getting lost, every one of my packet will be lost. So, the packet loss probability increases many-fold. That is the problem. What IETF tried actually, they tried to use IP version 6 itself, and also tried to use some other working protocols like OSPF and few others, but they could not work here. They need to have additional protocol, and that is RPL, this one. Okay. That help each node to find all nodes and routes to them. Okay. We have seen how that is done, is precisely what this RPL is doing. In case of non-storing nodes, they run an RPL client, and coordinator runs an RPL server. Okay. RPL server, after receiving all information, decides the network topology. We have already discussed this. Okay. But that topology now is in which form? In some graph, because they are connected. Okay. And all nodes are connected to each other in some form, that makes it graph. Okay. But which type of graph it is? It is acyclic, because we will not expect any loops in it. That is why it is called acyclic. It is directional. Why directional? Because it is from a leaf node, a node which is connected to only one other node, link goes there and then goes further. So, is only in one direction towards that central router. Okay. So, is only one direction type of a graph. Okay. That is why it is called destination, and this is the direction is destination oriented, acyclic graph. That is why it is called DODAG, or destination oriented directed acyclic graph. Link as a direction from LIF to the RPL server, the coordinator. Now, we use word RPL server, that is what I am telling. There are a lot of names given to this, okay, and RPL server is one more name that we have come across now. It is destination oriented, as I said, direction is toward destination. It is directed in the direction of the coordinator, and it is acyclic, as there are no loops. Okay. It looks like tree, but the word graph is used, and now that is important. This is the node, my router, every link is coming to it. It is tree if I just reverse the direction of root, because I have a root and every direction, every link is going out of it. When every link is coming in, when I have more than one link coming in, it is called graph, and that is the reason why we call it graph. Otherwise, it looks very similar to a tree. If you change reverse the direction of arrows, it becomes tree. How the data will move? Remember, this router will have to send that data to the recipient, okay, and I will have to do through source routing. That is what I have talked about, and this is, it will tunnel actually. That source routing is basically, as I said, whenever a source router, the central coordinator receives the packet, it will embed that packet into other packet, tunnel that packet and send it, and that the newer header will have that source routing option, okay, will show the exact path through which that packet will travel to that destination. So, that is the job to be done. And three type of nodes I talked about. First is storing node, non-storing node, and the root. Now, the word root comes into picture, but basically is the same central coordinator, okay. And the other thing, the nodes which are only connected to one node are leaves. The nodes which have at least two connections are called intermediaries, and intermediaries help in routing and known as Zigbee routers, okay, or zip routers. And leaves send their packet to zip routers and they determine path to the coordinator, okay. And one of the link is chosen as the best routing link. We have already talked about this. So, this job is done here. Okay, there is one problem whenever we have a structure of this type. The problem is that it will go much further. You would like to find out whether the node is really reachable, the node is really there is no loop of some sort. So, what you can do is, and this is what RPL does, it starts from central coordinator, all those who are at one link away, they have rank value 1. If they do not, RPL sets it to 1. And second level, you will find out the, it will check the value, if it is 2, it is fine, if it is not, it will change it to 2 and so on. So, it will set those values first. Now, the router knows that maximum rank value is 5, okay. So, that is important. So, it understands that no node is further than 5 ranks. So, that broadcast, whenever any broadcast is really needed, in case of a global repair, I talked about global repair in the previous module, you know that it will not go further than 5 links. So, that kind of constrained broadcasting is possible because of this link, okay, a solution to that loops. So, there is it will not travel in a loop, because it will travel only to 5 this thing and stops. Okay. Recovering from a node failure, I talked about this local and global repair. So, I am skipping that. And here are some shortcomings of the root over approach. We have said that root over is a very good approach, but then there are some issues with it. First thing, IPS and mesh are fundamentally different. IP version 6 is a case where huge packets are flowing, where mesh is where very small packets, okay. So, the solution we need is a shim layer and flagellates, and fragmentation increases the amount of errors. I have already talked about that in the previous module. We need additional protocols like MLE and RPL. Why we need? Because there is a basic mismatch, the misfit. To address those misfits, I need this, because IP version 6 for example demands a working link which is not present. So, you need an MLE. IP version 6 does lot of broadcasting, would like to avoid it. So, we need the RPL, that is the point here, okay. The other thing, different segments of the mesh share the same IP prefix, but do not share the broadcast domain, okay. So, ND, remember that demands that needs to change. Why? Because it is you network discovery, you just broadcast and you get the message, simple case is not possible here, because it is divided into multiple segments. Your first broadcast will not reach all, okay. So, you need to even modify your network discovery protocol. Point is, now this is always a case, whenever a new system will have an old protocol, you will find this incompatible issues, and there is a lot of incompatibility in this too, and to address those incompatibilities you need patches. But we have already seen why this IP version 6 protocol was chosen. There are many advantages of it, and according to the designers, the advantages outweigh the problems that we talked about here. and that is the reason why IP version 6 is chosen. But as this part talks about, IP version 6 is not without problems. So, here are problems and we need to have solutions, and those solutions patches are provided. A better solution maybe future we have a better solution, but at this point of time this is the case. The other thing, these are other problems, like for example, coordinator is connected to the other world, it has to broadcast its own maximum transferable unit, which cannot be less than 1280 byte, which is the minimum value for IP version 6. And if this network is used as a transit network, it cannot pass a packet. Suppose if there is a packet coming in, because it requires fragmentation. Now, you receive a 1280 byte packet, if you can send it through your nodes as it is not a problem. But you are telling the rest of the world that my size is 1280, but your actual size is not, you will have to cut that thing into pieces. But remember, when you cut that thing into pieces, actual overhead makes that packet much larger than 1280 packets, 1280 bytes. And so, internally I will have to manage a packet larger than 1280 bytes, which is externally not the case. That is a very tricky situation. In fact, this is possible to be programmed and done, but then you can't use general purpose solutions available from the internet. For example, I can't use ICMP in the fashion. Okay. ICMP has typical error messages related to MTU and all that, but I can't use them in IP version 6 if a network's MTU is more than the MTU that I am sending. As an ICMP message sent back, so source now fragment that thing. That kind of thing cannot happen here. And when this cannot happen, it becomes very difficult for an administrator to manage all this. And the other thing is, in fact, source routing. Remember, I talked about source routing in the previous module. When you use source routing, that source routing requires you to embed a packet inside a packet. Now, the packet inside is already 1280 bytes, and you have an additional header on top of it, minimum 20 bytes. So, that will make the size of that packet to be 1300 bytes. Now, that also demands an increased size of MTU, because otherwise my network says no, this is the minimum, this is my size and I cannot have a size bigger than that, you cannot use source routing option. So, again this is another case where you need this kind of system, where the MTU broadcasted at the rest of the world is different than what actually you are using inside. Okay. 6LoWPAN is not enough for some IoT cases. For example, smart meter needs to talk to a device which is further, maybe 100 meters, not even 100 meters, sometimes it is even more, 500 meters or so. Okay. Because there is a housing society which is 500 meters, 1 kilometer range. The electricity one is sitting outside, standing outside the society, should take all readings. So, this meter should talk to that one directly. So, we need a longer range. Okay. So, even 100 meter will not work. Okay. The sensors embedded in soil need to talk to the cloud directly, or vehicle communicate to cloud, because vehicles are informing the cloud about their movement and other information. Environment modeling, where you place your sensors on trees and other places, and finding out the moisture and all that, and sending that information back to the place where it is connected. So, many a times the distance is much larger. So, 6LoWPAN is for a very small this thing, so it can't work here. Okay. So, what you need is a different solution. One of the solution which is being proposed today is 5G. Okay. And there are a few other solutions, we have talked about UWB, that also is one of the solutions which is being proposed. Not only that, these applications now demand context aware solutions. Context aware means they will have to learn about the atmosphere and make decision accordingly. So, in that case it will have to look at the patterns and matching that thing and all that, so requires lot of data and lot of processing. Many a times processing is possible because you have a wired connection, but unfortunately unless you have a protocol which can drive that data to a very long distance, you cannot do it. So, 6LoWPAN cannot be used. Okay. So, that is the reason why this solution, many solutions needed for smart city, vehicular information to central server, for example, about congestion, provide assistance when the accident demand large bandwidth. These are all cases which demand large bandwidth. Okay. So, how do you handle it? 5G is one. 5G or LTE advanced technology has shown a lot of promise. Okay, is basically a fully packet switch mobile network. Why it is called fully packet switch? Because earlier solutions were not fully packet switch. Now this one is, and it is proposed by third generation partnership project, okay, which is basically a collaboration of telecommunication companies. The power of 5G is that it can drive the data to 5 kilometers and the bandwidth 500 MB uplink and 1 GB downlink. But there is one catch here. The IoT, unlike conventional devices, are sending more information than receiving, okay, because they are not basically data churning machines, they are basically sensing and sending data. So, they need more uplink bandwidth than downlink. In some cases they do not need any uplink bandwidth, they just send that information. For example, moisture and temperature sensors, they just measure that thing and send it up, done. Okay. So, that kind of a case. This 5G is an extension of GSM and UMTS, but it has better spectrum efficiency and latency. Okay. We are not discussing 5G in detail in this particular module, but and OFDM is not found suitable and other methods are tried for IoT. Okay. So, there are other, and this is a quite brewing area, lot of things are happening in this. Okay. We have talked about this machine to machine communication, is about autonomous exchange of information between IoT devices, and not M2M or IoTs. Okay. Please understand the difference between M2M and IoT. M2M, machine to machine communication, may happen through some other mechanism which is not standard, which is not even IoT. The machine to machine communication may not use internet at all. So, they are not IoT in true sense when they are. So, when you use the M2M solutions connected to IoT, yes, their area merges. Okay. The many, okay, intelligent transportation system, vehicular system, supply chain management system, smart metering, e-healthcare, so on, many cases we have discussed about them in the other modules. For example, surveillance, my camera which is surveying should be able to send it to the cloud. Not only that, it should be able to communicate to a police van if it finds something, an object which should not, okay, or find some harassment happening to human being somewhere, or somebody is running with a bomb or so. So, we will find something unusual and report back, and once that report back, that action should be taken. So, that for that you require that machine to machine communication. Lot of cases. For example, smart meter needs to talk to a smart reader, an IMD should communicate to doctor's mobile, supply chain management, okay, it needs to generate orders. Okay. There are few M2M challenges mesh network cannot match. For example, this case, an X-ray machine sending information to the doctor. Now, X-ray image is a very high resolution image, requires lot of data. So, that cannot work here. The other thing is that the coverage must be pervasive, it should be available, that service for citizens should be made available to the citizen everywhere in the city. Now, that requires that kind of coverage. Even for high capacity use, the power consumption must be less. Even when you are sending large amount of data, the power consumption should be less, because you are using most cases wireless devices. Okay. Again, network must be reliable. We have seen this thing. Okay. The lossy links, working on lossy links, but reliable. For example, you are talking about a healthcare system, e-healthcare system. I have a device embedded in my own body which measures the condition of my heart and reporting it back to doctor. Now, if there is a condition is worsening, that doctor must immediately get the message on his mobile phone. And if, because due to this unreliability of the network, it will not reach there, it is not acceptable to us. So, require that reliability. Not even in that case, let us take some other not all that serious case. For example, if a transport system collects information about all vehicles and report all vehicle owners that on the regular route there is a traffic jam, if that reaches to me after I am stuck in the traffic jam, is of no sense, of no use to me. Okay. So, that is the reason why such a system should provide the messages right in time, in real time. So, that is the reason why we need reliable and robust solutions. Again 6LoWPAN being lossy and all that will not get that kind of a solution to our satisfaction. So, all machine to machine communication problems cannot be handled. Okay. Number of devices to be deployed in many cases is quite high. So, that demands overall, if you want to reduce overall cost, okay, the individual device cost must be reduced. Okay. When less amount of data is to be transmitted, a very efficient mechanism should be used. And I have already told you that IoT traffic is more in uplink than downlink, okay, unlike conventional networks. So, ADSL like systems will not work here. Technologies like 5G is used, obviously IoT devices can use 5G, but then they will have to compete with mobile devices, and that can be an interesting problem to handle, because mobile device is also using 5G and IoT device also started using 5G, they communicate, there will be collisions and the problems which we need to address. So, how that is done, we do not really know how that will happen, but that is an interesting problem that is likely to come. Latency and congestion control may also be the case when 5G is used. Okay, let us look at some of the competing technologies here. Bluetooth is also used instead of 802.15.4, Bluetooth is also used, and Bluetooth also provides almost the same range 10 meters and 100 meter also. So, it can work, and there are the advantage of using Bluetooth that it is already available, and we have devices having Bluetooth sensors built in. So, you can use that devices directly. So, there are some solutions. In fact, I have heard about some of the companies working in solving using IoT devices using Bluetooth, and they are quite successful also. So, that is one solution. The other one is UWB, which I mentioned earlier when we talked about EM spectrum, we talked about UWB, this thing. UWB is a huge bandwidth solution which demands less power, and actually UWB is a solution where the very band is also be used for other purposes. So, it is basically it is using the same bandwidth multiple times kind of a solution. It has its own problems, but otherwise is quite suited for IoT devices, because it is a low power solution, but it can provide high bandwidth for shorter range and also can provide long distance low bandwidth solution, okay, which is also needed by some of the IoT devices. So, is 802.15.4 is only a short range solution and only low bandwidth solution, while this thing little bigger, much better. There is one more word which people use today, is called cyber physical systems, combining cyber and physical worlds. For example, an IoT based pacemaker which is connected to a physical body as well as controlled by an internet. Now, cyber physical systems has their own problems actually. Somebody stealing some amount of money from my bank account is one thing, and somebody increases the rate of pacemaker, or somebody increases the insulin dose, can kill me. So, the cyber physical systems have introduced additional problems of security. Point is, it is every IoT device today will merge into this world of cyber physical systems. That some researchers are predicting that make them more difficult. So, cyber physical systems are the other things which are coming up. Okay. Now, we will talk about some of the supporting protocols. COAP or is an is constrained application protocol is very critical for us to use. As I have said, it is quite similar to HTTP, but obtain a value from a sensor. So, if you have a sensor, and I said if you use a soil sensor which talks to a cloud directly. Now, how will it talk to cloud? Okay, there is a server somewhere, that COAP application can read that information from soil sensor and decide the amount of water to be pumped in. Okay, so, that system is lying on the cloud. So, COAP is possible to be used. The advantage of COAP is that will not drain a lot of power from the operations are I would say optimized for using less power. Okay. It uses UDP over IP, and with a 4 byte header, a very small header, is a very compact message based on clever use of options. It uses DTLS or datagram TLS, is a mechanism of using transport layer security over datagram. Okay. So, is something that it does. It also provides secure links. One more protocol is smart energy profile. Now, smart energy profile is a set of standards which let you. So, if your application follows this, the application will not draw a lot of power. Okay. So, if this is again ZigBee requires that every application that you install over ZigBee will have to be SME 2.0 compliant. Okay. So, that clearly means that will not going to drain the IoT devices out of power. So, that is the second thing. One critical job is done by SME in the area of utility companies, electricity companies, and we talked about smart electricity in module 6. So, whenever the smart electricity this thing is introduced, that smart electricity applications which distributes power, which prices a customer, communicates with the meter and all that, they are designed in a way that these meters do not draw additional amount of power. Okay. For the utility company, it makes a lot of sense, because they will, if they do so, the customers will not like it. Okay. So, that is the point, very critical here. SME is more confined to electricity companies at this point of time, but could be a standard for tomorrow. The other critical thing is in a constrained case, I do not have domain name servers. Remember, we studied about domain name servers, where I want to learn about some other node's IP address. How will I do it? I will have to have a DNS. We studied that in DNS, we will have those information. So, what we do is we in conventional case, we will just send our request to DNS. Remember, A record for IP version 4 address, 4A record for IP version 6 address, and CNAME for finding a different name. So, we do that actually. So, but additionally there is something called a multicast DNS solution provider. That is a comparatively a simpler solution when there is no DNS around. So, for mesh, we do not run a typical DNS server. What we do is we run a multicast DNS. Whenever we are interested in finding out an IP address of a node, we will just send multicast DNS query, and every node which are there will, one of them who has this address will listen to it and respond back with that IP address. Okay. So, that is the purpose of this multicast DNS. The other one is called DNS service discovery. Now, most of the IoT devices, in fact, search based on IoT devices, it is very hard to configure IoT IP addresses. So, that is the first problem. And when IoT devices are embedded in washing machine and something, if washing machine pops up, insert the IP address, probably my wife would say that I do not want this washing machine, change it, kind of. So, you probably understand that in a normal home user, if they get such messages, they will not like looking at those messages and setting and configuring those IP addresses. It is better that they do it themselves, and we have seen that they configure themselves. So, this DNS SD actually allows every device to do this, configuring, self configuring their IP addresses, not only configuring that addresses, but will be doing something else. For example, if I am looking for a printer with high resolution, I am not interested in looking at any specific IP address. In fact, I hardly am, a normal user will hardly am interested in learning about. So, DNS SD is a very simple protocol. It says that I want a high resolution printer, and I just send it to a typical multicast domain, and whoever are printers and would like to provide service have registered themselves there. So, they will get this message, and if they are ready, they will send back that yes, I am a printer and I am ready to provide you that service. And many a times I will provide service request with a criteria. For example, I might say that I want to print, but on high resolution. So, not all printers should respond back, but high resolution printer only should respond back. So, that also is possible, and whoever has that capability will report back. So, I will be able to get that service. So, DNS SD is a protocol which help us for this kind of a thing. Okay. It is also used for configuration, as I talked about the IP address configuration. Okay. Service discovery I also have talked about. What is the process of service discovery? Sender sends service request with specific parameters, like printer with high resolution. Other devices belong to the same multicast group, receives that request. If they provide the service or know somebody who does so, they respond back, and the sender collects all responses and choose the best. Okay. Sender might need to communicate further to that node. For example, it has to send that file for printing to that node. Okay. So, that is additional service. Not only that, my mesh network should also provide services related to security. For example, if I am using IPsec, IP version 6, which I am not actually using, I use IPL and RPL in most cases. By default, IPsec comes with it. So, if ever IP version 6 is used, IPsec comes with it. IPsec provide both authentication as well as encryption. If it is not available, and if you are using SME, remember it using DTLS, okay, datagram TLS. If I am using MLE, it provides TLS, okay, it allows me to use TLS, which again provide authentication and encryption. It is also possible for me to use, if there is an access point somewhere, remember access point, we talked about Wi-Fi extensions, and we see that how security is provided using extensible authentication protocol, and access point itself is not authenticating me, there is somebody called authentication server. So, my access point relays that information to access point the authentication server and gets me back. So, the protocol that we use is called extensible authentication protocol, but in this case when we use Wi-Fi, the node who is communicating is directly communicating to access point, it is available. So, it is communicating to it. Unfortunately, in case like home, my Wi-Fi router, because I am connected to it using a Wi-Fi, I am not directly connected to it. So, whenever I am sending this thing my EAP request, AAP packet, it will not reach. So, what I need is an additional protocol which carry that EAP from my node and make it sure AP receives it. When AP receives EAP, will send it over to authentication server and authenticate this node. So, when I want that kind of a service, for example, I do not want any node to connect to my Wi-Fi router, only authenticated node should do it, and I configure those devices with a typical PIN value, which I normally do with Wi-Fi devices. That PIN number has to be sent to access point, okay, but it is not directly connected. So, what will it do? That device additionally run a protocol called PANA. That PANA will do what? Will pick up that request and route that request to AP, and when AP receives that request, AP will process and forward. Okay. So, that PANA is a protocol for carrying network access, that is PANA. So, that is the protocol which is additionally needed. Okay. With that note, we conclude this particular module. What we have looked at in this module? We have looked at additional protocols which are needed by IoT devices to operate, and we have looked at some protocols which anyway are needed for mesh networks like RPL and related protocols, but we have also seen some of the other protocols, for example, multicast DNS, DNSSD and PANA. They are used for other cases also. They are not only device for DNS, they are device for IoT, they are also used in other cases, but we can see that they are needed here. Okay. So, point is IoT, but anyway and we have also seen that the IP version 6 that is used here is not very fitting, and because it is not very fitting, we need to have lot of additional protocols, for example, MLE and a few other protocols which to fill that gap. Okay. We need a shim layer for reducing that packet size, and Fredgelets and all those techniques are devised to make sure this gap is bridged. So, it is not very fitting actually, and there are other protocols which we can use, like 5G is one thing which people are talking about, UWB is the other protocol. All in all, the IoT field is very new, and the networking solution that I talked about, probably tomorrow the complete scenario might change and you will find some other better protocols, but today this is the case. With that note, I will conclude this module and this course with it, and like to thank those who have helped me in doing this, especially publishers of my book who have provided their figures which I could use, and they have given me permission to use those figures. So, I am thankful to them and all others for making this possible, and thank you all friends for being with us, being with me so far. Thank you all friends.